Hey everyone, Mr. Toast here. Just want to let you know you can watch the podcast and interact with other viewers live on twitch.tv/convictedtoast. Enjoy the podcast.
Randy, you're a fine. What a good wife you would be. Sorry. So this week, guys, in honor of Thanksgiving, we were trying to figure out what we should cover in spirit of the holiday, and what better way than diving into something we will probably rarely talk about, the MCU, with the Guardians of the Galaxy. We watched 1, 2, 3, and the holiday special. Watched them on about a week or so, and these, for me anyway, were all rewatches. But it's been a while, and for Mr. Toast here, the first time for
Um,
what, 3 in the Christmas special?
yeah, first time seeing 3 in the Christmas special, and then I had seen 2 not too long ago, maybe about 3 or 4 months before rewatching it again for the podcast, and then 1, it has been years.
It has been a while for me for the first 2 as well. And we're gonna get into these. I hope we're gonna say this a couple times probably at the end, but I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, especially if you're listening to this on Thanksgiving, or if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, have some turkey. It's good for you.
Unless it goes against your religion, then do
Yeah,
whatever
well,
you
yeah,
feel. Drink some water,
yeah.
maybe? I don't know.
Just grab some grass off of, like, the fucking, like, side of the road, just start eating it.
Yeah.
Some grass.
Unless you live in a country or a state that doesn't have grass, then eat sand, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't.
substitute sand.
Yeah,
Sand would work.
maybe rocks. Whatever you
Yeah.
have.
So, I guess, we start with Guardians 1. I
Yeah.
guess that's where we begin. Kinda wanna give just a little bit of background on this movie, and the characters. This was a huge risk for Marvel in 2014. Now they've kinda just, like, pulled everybody out of the fucking woodwork that they could find. I'm just waiting for the Jack of Hearts series at this point, when they get to, like, the D tier characters, because 'cause we're on C tier right now, baby. Uh, Guardians was a B, C tier, team in Marvel Comics, and they were just getting off the ground with some more well-known heroes, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and, James Gunn's like, let me do Guardian movie." And Kevin Feige was like, "Okay." Which is really interesting because when you think about it, this is the only movie that doesn't in some way tie into like what they were building on Earth,
Yeah.
like at this point. Uh Thanos is in it, which we are building a little bit towards Thanos before this. But this was like their first venture into the cosmos. And before the drama happened with James Gunn, he was originally supposed to be in charge of all cosmic films that came out of the MCU. That was his job because Kevin Feige decided, "Hey, we got a lot of different people and they're all in different locations. Let's do this." And he had like a dude for like ground level heroes like the Daredevil stuff,
Yeah.
and then a dude for this, and then James Gunn was supposed to be the dude for cosmic stuff, but that kind of fell through. This movie, I don't think anyone honestly if you told, somebody in 2014 that you thought Guardians of the Galaxy, before any of the trailers, was going to be a good movie, you're lying because nobody said that. A lot of people were very skeptical, and then the first trailer came, and we're like, "Huh, okay,
What's up?
what?"
Oh,
No, I
sorry.
meant I was doing, like, people's like, how they kind of responded
Oh,
to the
dude,
first
your mic cut
trailer.
out for a sec. I was like, what's he saying? Thought you were asking me
Yeah,
a question.
no. They were like, uh-huh. They were more intrigued at that point, and then the movie came out, and it was a huge success for Marvel, and, both of the sequels were as well.
Yeah. Um, I think a large testament of that is James Gunn being at the helm of it, of course. And then on top of that, I think the way that James Gunn used the soundtracks to his advantage to tie them into the character of Star-Lord, especially, and how that also kind of crosses through and bleeds through in the sequels to the other characters, especially Rocket.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna get to, quite a bit about Rocket in the third one for those of you that haven't seen it. And speaking of those of you who haven't seen it, we are going to be talking spoilers here for all three of the movies and the Kevin Bacon special. Uh, so if you haven't seen them yet, go check them out. They're worth your time, even if you're not really into the Marvel stuff. I think these can kind of stand apart as their own thing. James Gunn's pretty good at what he does,
Yeah.
and you'll find that they resemble film more than amusement park ride, as a lot of people have been talking about the MCU now.
Yeah. I, the thing about these movies though is that this was before it started to kind of feel more strained. Like we weren't as oversaturated as we are now. As Mike was telling me the other day, in Phase 4 alone, it's what you said, 3,500 minutes like
Of content,
of
yeah, which is
content.
more than phases 1 to 3 combined.
Yeah, which is insane. And it's most of the TV shows which have mostly mixed reviews except for Ms.
Uh,
Marvel.
Miss Marvel has generally pretty positive, and Loki does as well.
Yeah. Those are the big two that I see have had the most success. But beyond that, these films, this is before it started to feel like the same roller coaster ride over and over again, and in my opinion. And they felt more like an actual movie rather than just being like a straight up like adrenaline ride.
Yeah, I agree, and all 3 of these movies have a lot of heart to them,
Hmm.
especially I feel like the 1st and 3rd one, has a lot of things going on. I mean, there are some really sad parts in the 2nd one, obviously, the the ending, get into, but I feel like the 1st and the 3rd one have the most, like, weight. That makes
Yeah, I'd agree. Um, I think two does tell an important story for some of the characters, but it doesn't carry the same emotional weight across all the characters.
Yeah, stories for 2.
Yeah, uh
A
there's at
lot of
least there's
plot
like
going
three or
on.
four plot lines going on.
Yeah, it gets a little jumbled up.
Yeah.
So I guess we should just do you
Get
just wanna
into it.
jump right into, yeah, let's jump into 1. If you I don't know if you wanna just kinda talk about the movie as a whole, and then we could talk about scenes of it we like?
Yeah. So as an introduction to the Guardians, I mean we have our the okay. I do want to talk about this for a sec. I
Okay.
love the way that this movie starts before it rolls out the Marvel like title screen.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know, whenever you see a Marvel movie, you go in and you start out and it's just okay, we're straight into it. We're, you know, here's the Marvel logo, we're into the movie. I love that this starts in it starts on Earth in Missouri. I can't remember what year it is. It's
80 something.
88 maybe? I can't remember.
It might have been.
Um and we it's just we have Peter Quill sitting in the hospital. He's like 8 or 9 years old, something like that. Probably
Mhm.
older. Um and he's just sitting there listening to his Walkman and going into this moment where his grandfather comes out and he's like, she wants to see you. And he walks into the hospital room just to see his mother laying in the bed, dying of cancer. What a hard way to start that film. Like you go off of like the trailers or what you know about like Guardians of the Galaxy movies if you haven't actually seen them. You're like, oh, these are like funny, fun movies. And it doesn't start out that way.
Yeah, and it's crazy, and I agree with you completely. I love some of the MCU movies that kinda give it a second, or they do interesting things with the logo. Some of my favorites I'm gonna touch on, real quick. Infinity War, instead of playing the music, the intro is quiet at first, and then you hear Thor's ship, like, transmitting, "This is the Asgardian 7. We are not a warcraft. I repeat, we are not a warcraft." And then you see it, like, coming in. Really cool. I like
Yeah.
Black Panther's opener a lot, when you have the kids playing basketball and then his father's killed by, Chaka, and the kid's, like, kinda looking up at the sky, you see the thing fly away, and CU logo plays. So I love some of those, and I think 3 has a really interesting intro that we can talk about as well.
Yeah.
So with the first one, yeah, that opener's great, and then we get the iconic dance scene
Yep. With
with Chris Pratt.
Come and Get Your Love by Redbone. Absolute phenomenal way to introduce Star-Lord as a character. Especially because he's just, he's on a job, but he's also like taking his time, having fun, using a alien rat thing as a microphone, you know?
Mhm.
It's such a fun way to start the movie, and that song for years after the movie released has been in everybody's heads.
Yeah, the whole soundtrack, like,
Yeah.
lots like, "Hooked on a Feeling" was not a big song. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, but it wasn't
It
nearly the
wasn't to the popularity it is today. Like the fact that there are people in 3 or 4 different generations now that say, "Oh, I know that song," and it's because of that movie.
Reservoir Dogs had that song, and I think they only paid, like, a couple grand for the rights, if I remember correctly, to
Yeah.
use it because it wasn't a huge song,
Right.
and we get the, title credits, which we get for all I think all of the title credits are pretty good. The second one's my least favorite, but I think all of, like, the intros and the credits a lot of people kinda sometimes they complain about, like, having the title credits and things like that, they just wanna skip over that, but I think in all 4 of the, I would say all 4 of the films, they're pretty good and they're used really well.
Yeah. I think especially for 1 and 3 in particular, the opening song that they choose to use and the way that they choose to shoot the scene involving it really set the tone for the films. Um And 2, we actually talked about it with 2. We'll get into it later, but 2, we both were just like, this is my least favorite for the openers.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that, of course.
Yeah, and, oh, I just had a thought and it just completely lost me. I was gonna say something about the tone. Oh, yeah, how confusing would this be? Like, if you knew nothing about it and you see that scene, and then the kid's grown up because 'cause he's got the same Walkman and he's
Yeah.
dancing and singing, you'd be like, "What the fuck?"
What happened?
James Gunn is pretty good. They have a problem a lot of the time, I will say, in the MCU with handling tone
Yeah.
and adding too much comedy, especially post this movie. This is the only bad thing I'll say the movie did, is it made it feel like everybody in the MCU had to be a fucking comedian and deliver, like, one-liners all the time, even
Yeah.
though it's not their character.
This was kind of the introduction to that, I'd say.
Yeah. Like, Tony Stark
Especially,
was snarky, but not to this level.
yeah. And on top of that, I feel like it started out here because Guardians did so much better than they anticipated. So like they kind of started borrowing more elements from it and everything, but it's especially in this movie, it is especially heavy with Star-Lord and Drax. I think those two are the most, like, they throw out the most jokes, I'd say. And it's a decent dynamic, especially because Drax is like the character that he takes everything too literally.
Yeah.
And I think that that kind of comedy works, but I think it goes overboard in two. Like it's still funny, but it's a bit too overdone.
Yeah, and they do it with a lot of other characters later on in the MCU too, after this. They started, like, doing a bunch of that shit where they have a character that, like, taking everything literally instead of metaphorically. Um, so we get that awesome Star-Lord opening scene, and then shortly after that, we get introduced to Yondu, which is a scene I really like because I fucking adore Michael Rooker.
Yeah,
He is one of the at the same time, one of the most, like I don't know how I wanna say this, but one of the actors that's in the most that is, like, completely underrated.
yeah. I think you were talking about on a previous podcast, but you said I think Michael Rooker dies in movies more than
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean. Yeah.
Yeah, he might. He dies in, like, almost everything I've seen him in, he's died. The only thing that I've seen where he lives is Cliffhanger, spoiler, but he lives in Cliffhanger. Um, nobody's gonna watch that. That one guy, like, in Belgium, "Fuck, I was gonna watch that tonight."
Damn it. Now I know.
But there's a lot of shit adapted from this movie that they kind of used in other things, other MCU projects later down the line, especially with, like, how a lot of cosmic things work. I love how they do space jumping and where it, like, this space just kinda, like, becomes these, I don't know what you would call it.
It's like a portal almost.
Yeah, kind of, and then they jump through it. I love
Yeah,
the look of those. They're trying to differentiate from Star Wars.
yeah.
Appreciate that.
Because it wasn't just, oh, go light speed and like you watch the stars stretch out and everything. It was like, I think what's really interesting about it is that like you watch like this portal kind of open up and then you see like a completely different like, because you could go from seeing something that's like a nebula to just like an open vastness of space, and it changes throughout.
Yeah, and, um, speaking of the space travel, I saw this really funny interview with, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's like, people were asking because a lot of times he'll criticize movies,
Yeah.
like, for inaccuracies. Like, he criticized the sky in Titanic, and, Seth MacFarlane called him when he was making Ted, and he was like, "Quick, I need a night sky for, September 4th, 1980."
Hmm.
And he, like so Ted in the Make-A-Wish scene has an accurate sky.
Oh my god,
But
that's wild.
somebody asked him about something with the space travel in Guardians of the Galaxy, and Neil deGrasse Tyson just tweeted back, "Hold on. You want me to, like, criticize that when there's literally a talking raccoon in the movie?" He's like, if I suspended my disbelief enough for that, I could do it for space travel."
That's true.
Yeah, I kinda wanna talk about the characters a little bit because these are
Yeah.
all, like, now household names, but, like, when this
In
came out
2014, before this, like nobody really knew the Guardians per se. Maybe they'd heard of them in passing by like somebody else that was a big comic book nerd, but they never knew who they actually were.
that's what I was gonna say, we're gonna have one guy in the comment like, "Actually, I read Guardians when it first came out in 2006." I don't know what year Guardians came out.
Yeah,
Um, so we've got, Blue Merle, AKA Yondu. Fucking love Yondu. I love every character Michael Rooker plays. He's really good.
yeah.
And then we have Gamora, who is the adopted daughter of Thanos and becomes really important. I didn't remember her being, like, such a bitch in the first one, but I guess it
It
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
Nebula too. Nebula has, like, I would say
Nebula has the craziest character arc across this
that's what I was
franchise.
gonna say, like, character development. And, like, going back now and seeing her like that, I feel like I would have hated her in 2014, but now I get it now that I know what all she's gone through.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, speaking of Nebula, that's another character, Gamora's sister. She is a great character. I think Karen Gillan does a great job playing her, and I'm sure Karen Gillan has to sit in the makeup chair for like 14 hours,
yeah. They all probably sit there for half their day, and then they go and shoot like 2 scenes and go home.
except for Star Lord.
Yeah.
I guess gotta do his hair.
Yep.
Um,
Um,
eh,
I do want to just like while we're mentioning the characters, like how how the story incorporates the idea of like people that have been loners for so long and like coming together. And a big reason as to why we chose this for our Thanksgiving episode is that they become like a surrogate family. They develop beyond loners to uneasy alliances to family.
yeah, it's very this film is very Boogie Nights-esque in the fact of, like, finding a family and something. James Gunn actually took a lot of inspiration from Boogie Nights, and that's why, like, the awesome mix that's, in Boogie Nights, the,
Yeah.
crazy guy at the end of the movie, he's got the awesome mix in his player. It's a cool little detail. Where were we at? We talked about family.
We're still talking
Trying
about some of the characters because
I know, I was trying to remember, like, who
we mentioned Nebula was the last one that we talked about. Gamora,
uh
Yondu, Star
Groot is a
Lord.
tree?
Yeah.
You know what? After watching all of these, I thought we learned, like, more about his species and things, but you don't.
Nope.
Like, you know, n he is the guardian you know the least about, and I guess that I mean, that makes sense. He's kinda like a pet
Yeah.
in a way, like, especially when he's, like, growing up, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he I would say Groot has the least amount of development. And then, 2nd place only to Nebula Rocket.
He's
Uh,
got the. I think
character
Groot
development.
has like the weirdest character thing because yes, while he just says "I am Groot" over and over again, the fact that the characters learn what he's saying, first off, is interesting. And then second off, I think for some of it, he's a bit overused for comedic relief. In the second
Yeah.
and third one. In the first one, it's fine.
I shit, what did you before that? You were saying something about God. Now I can't remember it.
Oh,
You're just talking about something with Groot, and I had something funny I wanted to say. Like,
uh, I don't know. I'm trying to go back myself, and I'm
just completely. That's fine. It'll if it's important, it'll come back to.
all right. Chat. We need some member berries from South Park.
Yeah, we need some member berries. If anybody remembers what Keegan said,
Yeah,
I missed. I the first part I had something I wanted to respond to. Anyway, yeah, Groot. I would say interesting like concept, interesting character. Just they didn't do a lot with him
yeah,
in the trilogy. Drax the Destroyer, really interesting backstory. His wife and daughter were murdered by Ronin under the orders of Thanos, and he wants to kill them all.
yeah. Oddly, oddly, such a comedic character for such a tragic story.
Yeah, and it's not even like I don't know. His laugh is contagious. Keegan can testify.
Yeah, it's something about. I think Dave Bautista's just having fun, you know, and the way that he's delivering the lines and his laugh, you can't help but have fun with him.
Yeah, he cracked me up like the entire fucking second one, and I heard Keegan just sitting there in silence. I was like, and every time he like made a noise, I love his character. Um, so then we have Peter Quill, who we touched on a little bit, Star Lord. Uh, we'll get to him as we go through it because I would say the trilogy at its heart's kind of about him. The third one's a rocket movie,
Yeah, but he still
but
has elements in there, so
yeah.
um yeah, it definitely relies heavily on Star-Lord for the first two, especially the second one.
Let me see. Who am I forgetting? Mantis, but that's two. We'll get into Mantis. I think
Yeah.
I. Oh, Rocket.
Yep.
We'll talk more in three about Rocket.
Yeah. um I think Rocket's probably one of the most important ones to talk about, truly.
Yeah, especially at three.
Yeah.
Um, so with the first one, we're introduced to these characters. They're all after this orb that Star Lord steals. The MacGuffin, classic MacGuffin. They all want this. It turns out there's a power stone, one of the six Infinity Stones. Can I just say how much this movie, like, fucking set up that I had no idea? Like, Nowhere, I forgot how, like, extensive they went into Nowhere.
Yep.
Actually, let me pull this up. I made a list on my letterbox, like, right after we watched it, of all of the things that they set up in this movie that are crucial, like, going forward.
Yeah.
Uh, there it is. Uh, the Guardian's introduction was done. The Collector was done. They teased about Ego. They teased about Cosmo. They teased about Rocket's backstory. The Kree. Thanos' quest for the stones. Yondu and the Ravengers. Howard the Duck, and the introduction of Xandar and Nowhere, which pretty much every aspect of that has reappeared multiple times. A few of them are just in the Guardians movies, but there are a lot that like outstretch that and go into the broader connected MCU, which is just again, it makes me so sad to see the state they're in now
Yeah.
because what they set up, I mean, it was
Yeah.
pure genius.
I think I think they got a bit too cocky after Endgame. They kind
I
of like they were like, we're on top of the world right now, and they didn't, because up to Infinity War, I would say we were at a point where they're just like, we're still going, we're still going. Every time that we get another successful movie out, it's something that we can build towards this climax, and then after the climax, there was like, how can we do more? And we didn't really get that moment of bring it back down, keep it grounded. Their expectations have gone too high.
I completely agree. I I think they're finally starting to realize that because next year there's only one new Marvel,
Yeah.
and that's the first time that's happened since I think it was 2009 maybe. There's only one. I can't remember. There was one year there was only one that came out,
2008, we had Iron Man 1. Did Thor come out
and
in
Incredible
2009?
Hulk. Incredible Hulk. Thor was 2010. Iron Man 2 was maybe it wasn't. Remember?
I swear
No,
I
it
don't
was
remember.
Thor was 2011. I don't know. There was one year where there was only one. There's only one year where there's only one.
Yeah.
And there's only one coming out next year with Deadpool 3, and there's only a couple series coming out, and one of them I wrote off, and then I saw a guy make a video about it. Now I'm probably gonna watch it.
Which one?
Echo.
Oh. Oh, that's the
It's
one with, that's like the Vincent
the
D'Onofrio
kid.
and,
Yeah,
yeah.
they got writers from the Netflix team,
Hmm.
and it's the first Disney Plus TVMA series.
Okay.
So it's technically the first R-rated content in the MCU because it'll come out before Deadpool.
That's true. This would be actually under Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I didn't realize it was gonna be mature, but yeah, apparently it's like Disney Plus just decided that they're gonna put mature content on there, do
Yeah.
what Netflix does with the parental controls.
Honestly,
Which
I think that's what they should have been doing from the start, but that's just
yeah,
me.
yeah. It was in some countries, just not here,
Yeah.
because they
Uh,
combined with Hulu and a lot of
we got pretty far off track there for a sec. Where were
we
we
did.
at?
Uh, we were talking about all the things that they, set up
Yeah.
in the first one, and especially in the second and third one, there's well, none that we
Yeah.
but there's a lot of setup in the second.
But yeah, the Power Stone.
Yeah, so they're all after the Power Stone. We get our first glimpse of Thanos, other than a side profile a little bit. You get to see him a little tiny bit in the first Avengers movie. He's kind of like smirks at the camera, and then every audience member in 2012 is like, "Who the fuck is that?" You can
True.
go home and Google it. Uh, there was the Eternals end credit scenes. They teased one of the I can't remember what band it was in. One of the band members of One Direction, Harry Styles. They teased him as this character called Star Fox. They showed him on screen, and he had like a little troll, and I was like, "Who the fuck is that?" And then I looked it up. It was like Star Fox. I'm like, "Thanks."
Star Fox from like the N64 video games.
No, apparently he's Thanos' brother, but he's played by Harry Styles, and he's in no makeup. Like he's just
Okay.
hot Harry Styles.
All right.
And he has a troll with him that is played by Patton Oswalt.
What the
I
fuck?
can't. You need to watch Eternal just for that end credit scene.
Okay. All right.
Dude, it's yeah. This movie shows Thanos for the first time. He's talking to Ronan the Accuser, who is our villain for this movie. We realized it was Lee Pace halfway through watching it, and
If you
well,
didn't
Keegan has
watch the Bodies, Bodies, Bodies episode, he's a character uh in Bodies, 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 and he's one of the best characters in that movie because he's so what do you call it? Like bravado?
yeah, down to earth.
Yeah. And he's just the entire after Mike told me who it was, I just couldn't stop myself going, the Hurricane.
The Hurricane. Yeah, and then you couldn't tell during the whole movie, but at the end, when like the final battles take place, he goes, "What are you doing?" And it sounded just like Lee Pace. I
Yeah.
was like, dude. And then he followed up with, "What are you doing?" And it was but we get some Kree stuff here, which is really cool because I'm one of the rare people that likes Captain Marvel and I like the Kree, so we get to see Ronan in both. I need to see if Lee Pace plays him in Captain Marvel too.
I'm pretty sure
Um,
we saw that because he's credited in Captain Marvel.
oh yeah, you're right, he does. That's dope.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all after the Infinity Stone. We get to see Thanos. We learn about his quest. This is the first time he has a speaking role, and it's not like a fucking end credits, like a little teaser. It is right in your face, like 2 or 3 minutes in the movie, like, he's there, and
Yeah.
it is Josh Brolin. He's a little bit more
It's
blue?
deeper and he's more purple.
Yeah, a little bit more purple, a little bit, like I don't know, it's weird. I get why they changed his look for Infinity War and Endgame, they wanted him to look a little bit more natural.
Yeah. I do also want to mention during this scene before Ronan goes to see Thanos, he's talking to this guy on the screen that looks like some Palpatine knockoff shit, and
The leader of the Chitauri.
yeah, leader of the Chitauri, and Mike's like, where did he end up going? Like, I don't remember seeing him anywhere else in this. And then in the next scene, when he's talking to Thanos, Ronan just blasts this like thing at him and just spins his head around. I'm like, there's where he went.
Yeah. I was like, I haven't seen Guardians in so many years. I was like, man, whatever happened to this Chitauri guy? Like he seemed pretty important, like in this scene, and then like 2 minutes later, just broken neck. I was like, oh, okay, that's what happened to him.
Oh yeah. uh
So Thanos talks a little bit about his daughters, and Ronan decides to hunt him down. The Guardians get caught like fighting. They haven't assembled yet. They're not the Avengers. They take some time.
yeah, it starts out with Star-Lord has the orb, and he's gonna like he's stabbing Yondu in the back, and he's gonna go do this deal without him. Um, and in response, Yondu puts a 40,000 unit bounty on Star-Lord's head, so he goes to make the connection. He's like, "Yeah, some guy named Ronan wants this or something or other," and he's like, "I'm not taking that." He kicks him out of the shop, and then it kicks off with right as he leaves the store. Gamora's leaning up against the building. She's like, "What happened?" He's like, "I backed out of the deal." Uh, and there's something about this scene that I absolutely love, where uh, he starts trying to like flirt with her and everything, and then she just kicks him and just grabs the sphere and starts running. It's,
I love I love that scene, and I love how it like kind of establishes all of the Guardians together. Not Drax yet. We get him a little bit
yeah,
later, but like Rocket, Groot, Gamora, Peter, they're all there. I love Rocket kind of spying on everybody, and then there's the Stanley cameo. He's like, "What a class A prevert!" Like that is a great, that's a great way to do a cameo.
yeah, and I love that the way that they're kind of scouting, because that's like, if you were a bounty hunter, you'd realistically, if you had like something that's kind of scanned faces and like tell you if they had a bounty, that's what you do. You go to like a heavily populated area and you're just like, bounty, bounty.
Exactly. And so they get caught fighting, tussling a little bit. Then we get a lineup scene that's pretty good. It was shown in all of the trailers showing. I remember it was everywhere. The lineup
Yeah,
of the guard.
it's what you remember most. I'm pretty sure during the end credits for 3, it's going through like all the pictures, and the very last one is the lineup.
Yep. And it's an iconic scene. They go through each one, kind of introduce them, give them a little bit of backstory. They say Rocket's name here, like his test experiment name that we learned
Yep.
about in 3, and it is accurate. It is the same.
Yeah, they didn't forget.
No, they did not forget. We see Groot, like a little bit about him, that he's the last of his species. Gamora adopted daughter Thanos, and then there's like I don't know like what the joke was. I mean, it's funny, but like Peter's like cranking like a Jack in the Box, and he like
Yeah,
gives the middle finger. Like, is that something you could do on the screen? Was he just like doing it, and they were blurring it?
yeah. I
Like
don't know.
which one was it? Like that scene's always kind of confused me. Like if that's like a tool, why would they like give the prisoners access to that?
Uh, I'm not sure what you're talking about here.
Remember when Peter's in the lineup, he does the Jack in the Box middle finger?
Yeah,
Is that something he's doing on the screen, like, making himself do that, or are they just, like, blurring him doing it?
I think he's doing it, and then like the screen's like automatically blurring it. I could be wrong though. I don't know.
Gotcha, okay. I well, that seems always like because it looks like he's, like, doing something technical, like, I don't know. It was a
It's
really good
just
wind-up.
an expressive wind up for flipping the bird.
Yeah.
Just I
So
didn't
they
know
get
what that did. Nah, I'm sorry.
see, that's what made me think it was, like, a button he pressed or something. I was like so, they get sent to jail. They get met by a very creepy and very, covered in makeup Nathan Fillion. He's like, "I'm gonna slather you in Corinthian jelly," or some shit like that. Like, it's shit you'd hear in Shawshank on Mars.
Yeah.
Uh, and then Rocket as Groot pick him up, he's like, "This is our booty." Um, and they're in the jail. Drax is introduced, wants to kill Gamora. Gamora's like, "Hey, you wanna kill me? How about Ronan's looking for me, he's looking for the Power Stone. How about I lead you to Ronan and you can kill Ronan instead?" He's like, "All right, cool."
Yeah, it's actually Star-Lord that's saying that for her pretty much to not get her killed. But I love the like this is the first exposure we had to Drax, and it's how we find out that he takes everything literal. And so he's like, "You follow her to Ronan, and then you." He's like, "Why would I put my finger on his throat?"
Why would I put my finger on? Yeah, oh, it's so good, and they devise like a break out of jail plan, and they start putting the shit in place. They're gonna blow it up.
My favorite thing about the jailbreak is actually the way that it starts out, where it's like, we want to get that purple box last, as Groot just rips it out.
Yeah, yeah. He's just like, all right.
Or we
So
just do it, we make it up as we go.
yeah. When is the scene where he's floating in space and freezing? Is that in this breakout scene, or is
No,
that
that's
later in
during,
the movie?
that's after they take the orb to the collector,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Okay, I remember. I was just checking.
yeah,
I made a joke to Keegan that if I had a nickel for every time Peter Quill was floating in space, freezing, about to die, I'd have 3 quarters, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened 3 times.
yeah. There
S
were a few things that I called back on that, like, it's weird that it happened 3 times, or weird that it happened 2 times thing. Don't remember what the first one was, but the fact that they kept coming up though across all of three of these movies was a little weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
um, but they make their prison escape, um, and we almost forgot about one of the best parts of it was the because like, during the lineup, they're going through and like they confiscate all their stuff and put it in boxes, and one of the dudes takes Star Lord's
Walk.
Walkman and headphones. And like they during the prison break, they get all their stuff. They're going through, and he's like, "That bastard didn't put it back."
I love that. "Give me that back, you big blue bastard."
Yeah,
I love that line. There was actually, we were talking about there was like 2 or 3 moments, like, through these movies that James Gunn should have gotten the first MCU F-bomb,
yeah,
and he didn't get it till the 3rd one. Uh,
yeah. I agree. We kept talking about because it kept coming up, and it's like it could have been right there. It could have been right there.
um, yeah. So, we have the, prison break, and then they're like, "Well, what are we gonna do with the rock thingy?" They're like, "Let's, take it to the collector and sell it," and at this point, they don't know it's an infinity stone, they think it's just warp.
Yeah,
So they go to the collector, played by Benicio del Toro. This is where he went whenever he left Johnny Depp in Fear and Loathing. Went to space and became the collector. So he's got all these rare creatures. We see Cosmo, the space dog, for the first time. We don't even get officially introduced to her until the Christmas special.
yep.
And we see a lot of little things around, and he's like, "Nice tree." He's, "I am Groot." He's like, "Yes, you are." Like, he's really weird. He has, like, these slave women too, like, working on his, like, collection. He's on the planet Nowhere, by the way, which the introduction to Nowhere is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Just this floating celestial head in space, and then you go in the eye, and there's all these cities. That is awesome. That
yeah,
is a great visual. Uh, so the Collector is I love every scene with the Collector, and I think he's in Thor: The Dark World, this, uh, Infinity War. I think that's it.
yeah. I'm gonna be completely honest. I fell asleep during Thor: The Dark World. I don't remember any of that movie.
You should watch the, end credits scene because that's where, the Reality Stone is passed on. Thor just gives it to him.
Huh.
He's like, "Here you go."
All right. Fair
That's why
enough.
they made that, joke in Infinity War when, he was like, "Who would give a stone to the Collector? Only an idiot." And Thor goes, "Or a genius." Yeah. Now that scene's got context for you.
Yeah.
So, the Collector is like, "Yes, yes, hold on, this rock," and he opens it up, he's like, "It's actually Infinity Stone." And, he's, like, giving our first explanation to what the stones are, which is really cool. We get a lecture in, Infinity War as well at the very beginning about what
Yeah.
the stones are, and, he's explaining it, he's like, "This thing could destroy a planet. Let me go get my wallet. Just don't touch it, it'll eviscerate you." And then his slave girl's like, we couldn't tell if she was like wanting to commit suicide
Or if she
or
thought that it was gonna like she'd have her turn with power.
if she'd just kill him.
Yeah.
We're not sure. But she grabs the Power Stone and it just fucking obliterates everything around her. The Guardians are all like diving and weaving, and she just explodes. They're like, got it.
Yep.
Don't touch that.
Yeah. And then we get the reveal, like they're like, okay, we gotta go now. And then Drax is standing there and it's like, I called him. They're like, what? He called Ronan because he was like, yeah, I'll just call him and kill him myself. After they had a disagreement, and they're like, you are an idiot.
Yeah. So they're trying to escape. Drax gets his ass absolutely handed to him by Ronan. They're escaping, and Star Lord, like, I can't remember how it happens that he gets to space.
So they're in these pods that they're like industrial grade or whatever. They're not designed to go out into the void of space. They were just supposed to be used around nowhere, but Gamora's like, I have to go outside. They're chasing me down. I have to go outside. And Peter's like, you're not going to survive out there. As he goes out, Nebula's in one of the ships and blows up the pod that Gamora's in. And they're both sitting there, rockets next to him in his pod. And Rocket actually says something that's like, he's like, her genetic enhancements will keep her alive for a couple minutes. And so Peter's like, okay, I'm gonna call Yondu, who's still looking for me. And I'm gonna fly out there, put my helmet on her, keep her alive, and just float in space by myself for a few minutes.
Yeah, they do explain like how he's able to do that, thankfully.
Yeah. But then it comes back and Yondu's like, hey, don't cut me out of a deal ever again. And we kind of discussed this part because he's being like a real hard ass and everything. And he doesn't really let up until Peter's like, I have a solution. And
Yeah.
she's like, all right. And we were kind of speculating if Yondu actually was threatening him in this moment or if he was just trying to look tough for the rest of the Ravagers.
Yeah, and then he gave Peter the out by like Peter being like, "Oh, I got a deal."
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Oh, cool. I can let Peter go without looking like a bitch in
Yeah.
front of all my dudes." Uh, so they strike up a deal. They're gonna take like what 13/14 of the Power Stone. The Guardians are taking 14th. Is that what it is?
It was 12% of
Oh,
4
okay.
billion, which I was talking to Mike about this. I'd ran the math. I was like, hold on. So in the beginning, when Peter has the 40,000 unit bounty on him, Rocket's like, Groot, we're gonna be rich. And if you break down 4 billion into 12% and then split that up 4 ways, because Drax wasn't in on the original deal, that's still 120 million units each.
Each?
Each.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think they did the math.
Well, I think they wanted the whole. Well, they didn't want to sell it at that point either
Yeah.
because they knew what it was. So Ronan has the stone at this point, right? He got it from nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. We forgot to mention that he takes it and then he's like, Thanos, I'm not working for you anymore. I have my own power. And he takes the stone and he pops it into his hammer.
His big old hammer, and he wants to go to Xandar and smash it on the fucking surface and destroy all of Xandar.
Yep.
So they're like, well, we got to go get him. So they decide this is when they finally like become a team. They're like, yeah, we could take this guy down. And they do some battling stuff. They talk with the Nova Prime and the Nova Corps first. They're like, trust us, like we're wanted here, or why would we come back? And like this is a trick, like they're gonna kill you.
I'm not 100% a dick.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, that's John C. Riley, who we didn't mention was in this, is reading out the note to Glenn Close, Nova Prime, and
Yeah.
he's like, I may be an asshole, but I am not 100% dick.
She's like, do you believe him? It's like, I don't believe anybody's 100% a dick.
So they land and they make a deal uh to help them, or I guess they just kind of get their help. And Ronan's ship arrives, and they do some space battling stuff. And then Ronan crashes, and the Guardians are there. And this is
This might be an unpopular opinion. I think the space battles in this movie were better than any of the ones in any of the Star Wars movies.
I like the opener to Revenge of the Sith too much to
All right,
agree.
that's
Like
fair. That's fair.
that open is pretty sick. Uh, but yeah, they do look pretty good. Um, so Star Lord's in front of Ronan. He distracts him. He's like, "Let's do a dance battle," and Star Lord's like dancing, and then this is where we hear Lee Pace's voice. He's like, "What are you doing?" And then he keeps doing. He's like, "What are you doing?" And um, so then they get into the fight. Star Lord gets a hold of the Power Stone and he holds it, and all of the Guardians kind of lock arms. I completely forgot about the big Groot thing. We can get back to it.
Oh yeah,
Well, I guess it is kind of forgettable because it doesn't like amount
it
to
doesn't
anything.
amount to anything now with context to the sequels.
Yeah. Well, what I mean is, doesn't matter that that happens because he's still there. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
It doesn't really have an impact because he's shown in that movie.
Yeah,
Be
that's
so
true.
they do.
They completely take out like any meaning of that. Uh, anyway,
Yeah, I like just thinking about it now. I'm like, that doesn't mean shit. Like, it's cool when you see it for the first time, but then even at the end of the movie, you're like, it's like the fucking Korg death in Love and Thunder, where he gets like blasted, and Thor's like, "Oh my god," and he's like a little tiny rock.
yeah, we
It's
don't
like,
talk
yeah.
about Love and Thunder though.
But that's the same. That's the same
Yeah.
thing. They do that all the time, like the fake out deaths. So they defeat Ronan. They all wield the Power Stone together. Uh, we learn from John C. Riley's character that it's because uh, Peter's dad is not from Earth.
Yep.
He has some alien blood in him.
Yeah.
Do they tell him what he is in this one?
No, they say that you're half Terran and the other half is something. They say something like very special or something along those lines. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's that was another thing that they set up pretty good in this one. And real quick, I'll touch on what we were alluding to. When the ship is going down, before they fight Ronan, Groot like decides to wrap all of his limbs around friends, tree branches, protect them, and they take the brunt of the crash. And Groot is seemingly killed during this, but
Yeah,
as we all know, he's not dead. They just made him a little bit more marketable.
especially for the sequel.
Yeah, they made him a little bit more marketable.
Pretty sure there's a Chia pet.
I'm sure there is. The amount of Groot shit I've seen in my life.
Yeah,
But so that happens. They all decide to kind of stay together. They fly out into the galaxy. Don't think I forgot any. I don't. Did I forget anything?
I don't think so.
There's a
Um,
Howard the Duck end credits scene, and Howard the Duck is voiced by Seth Green.
yep. I think the only thing we can mention is that the criminal records are expunged. That's it.
Oh yeah, that too.
I guess that's kind of important. I don't know.
Howard the Duck though.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Howard the Duck. Um, yeah.
Was there another end credits scene?
The only thing that we have was
Groot dancing.
Groot dancing and Drax like looking back and he like freezes.
Wow, it didn't set up anything.
It didn't.
That's cool. Okay, I like that. 3 doesn't either, but the second one sets up 5 things.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're getting into the second one now. I will say, I don't know if you'll agree with of the 4, I think this is my least favorite, but it has the best soundtrack.
Yeah, I would agree. I like a lot of things in this movie, but I think it spreads itself too thin in other parts, and I don't know. I like it, but it's definitely the weakest link.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's just because they tried to do way too much with it.
Yeah, especially if in the context of this movie, this is, as far as we know, this is only like a few weeks, maybe a month or two after the first movie.
Yeah, it's not very long after.
So we kind of start out, and as Mike and I were talking, this intro is definitely like, for us, it's one that we're not crazy about, and like in comparison to the other two, they have even the Christmas special has a better intro.
Yeah, it really does.
But it starts out and they're like, uh, they've been contracted by, what's the race called? What are the people?
Oh, the gold people.
Yeah, the gold people, as we'll refer to them. They're contracted by the gold people to
Sovereign.
Sovereign, the Sovereign. That's right. They're basically contracted to stop this monster I don't remember the name of from eating their batteries. The batteries are very unique or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there's something they use to, like, power their shit, I don't know, their
They're
growing
it's like their
pod.
birthing pods or something. Yeah. But it starts out in like the before the monster gets there, they're setting up speakers and everything. And this is actually, I do think this is the only important thing that comes out of this intro is the Rocket setting up like the music and everything. And he's like, what, Quill's the one that likes music so much, and then he's like, I actually agree with Drax here. We should not be setting up music for this. Like, we should just be getting ready for the fight. And I think that's the moment that we start to see that Rocket's starting to be more influenced by Peter's music. And it's even comes back later on when he's alone by himself with the ship. But
Yeah, and it works really well in 3.
yeah. So we open
Really
up and the it plays Mr. Blue Sky. Not a bad song choice.
good. I
Solid
think it's a
song.
good song for an intro.
Yeah. Great song for an intro. But the entire time we basically just watch baby Groot walking around like dancing and everything. And in the background we just see glimpses of the fight happening. Nothing
Do you
crazy
think
is
it
going
would've
on.
been do you think it would've been better if we saw the fight instead with the song and it, like, paused on, like, certain shots where it was, like, vomiting that rainbow stuff at them?
Yeah, it'd been cool like if they like if they done freeze frames and then in the background you just see Groot like busting it down.
Yeah, and then they freeze frame on him last. I think that would've been a much better intro.
Yeah. Because here it doesn't really, it doesn't, like I was saying with the first and third, it doesn't set the tone.
No. Can I
um
talk oh, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, you're
I
good.
mean, you go ahead.
I think this movie's tonally all over the place to a degree.
I
um like the main plot line that it sticks to I think has a solid tone and it's fine, but whenever it branches off to the other things I'm like, it I don't know, it's branching off in ways that don't really make sense to the main plot point.
Yeah, I agree, and but then, like, looking back on it, a lot of them do set up stuff for later, except for one of the things going on that
Yeah,
we'll talk about, but y
I think all of the stories pay off at the end for the most part.
yeah. There was something I wanted to talk about, but first, can we just talk about I didn't realize Kraglin was in the first one.
Yeah, so Kraglin has a much bigger role in the second one, but in the first movie, Kraglin is played by Sean Gunn, and we were sitting there. So we watched the movies backwards. We started with three, and then we did two, then we did one, then we did the holiday special. So when we were watching three and two, Kraglin's such a big character, and I was sitting there, and we were both just like, "Is Kraglin in the first movie?" And he is, but he doesn't, they don't name drop him at all, and he is there but he doesn't speak as much as he does in the other two.
No, he has a few lines, but he's there, which is cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Click. Can I real quick? I want to talk about an MCU intro that does the battle thing that does it a lot better and really, really well.
sure.
It's weird when I say it, but hear me out. It's Age of Ultron. It opens with all of the Avengers in this country. I don't even remember where it is. It's a country. They're fighting these bad guys that are members of Hydra.
Yeah,
Really kick-ass scene. We see all of the Avengers doing their thing. It's a great opening to, like, start with that fight, and then the fight kind of influences the plot a little bit, not really. This one, like, the whole movie is contingent on post this fight,
Yeah.
'cause the shit with the Sovereign and everything is contingent off them having the fight with
Yeah.
this weird monster.
I will say, shit, it's gone. I had the thought and it's gone. Why does this keep
I
happening?
I don't know, it's happened to me a couple times too. Uh, so yeah, we get the intro, and, I'm gonna try and speed it up because I just realized we've been going for an hour already, and I
Yeah.
don't want this to be a 3-hour long episode.
I remember what I was gonna say really quick.
Okay, good.
That fight at the beginning of Age of Ultron only makes sense if you watched Agents of Shield up to that point. I actually did the research on that.
It doesn't ma it makes sense if you see the Winter
Well,
Soldier.
the whole reason that like that fight's even happening, like that's all set up in a previous like set of stuff from uh Agents of Shield.
Huh.
Yeah, so you get
I've always
context
wanted to
for why
watch
they're attacking that compound.
I've always wanted to watch it, but it seems too, like, basic TV for me. Like, I feel like it'd be tame.
Yeah, I think so too. I haven't watched it. I know Swifty's watched it. He doesn't talk about it much though, so I don't know a lot.
Uh, so after this, they meet the Sovereign, Peter's kinda, like, flirting with her a little bit, and Rocket fucking just decides to rob batteries from them for no reason. He's just like, "I got some batteries," and
Which
Drax is like, "Oh."
puts a major plot point into focus and starts off like the. It kind of introduces the main conflict, sort of.
I
It's
guess.
it's the way that the it's kind of if okay, so if Rocket doesn't take the batteries, the movie doesn't happen.
Yeah. Except for the ego stuff,
Yeah,
because it
like
seems like the Yondu and the Ravagers and the Sovereign are gonna be the villains of the film.
yeah,
Because the Ravagers are supposed to be pissed because of oh, excuse me, the events in,
because
the first film.
yeah, so they switched out the Power Stone at the end. He was like, "Okay, here you go, Yondu." He actually switched it out, and it was a troll doll.
Yep.
So they're supposed to be pissed off that they didn't get their score. Um, but anyway, let's move on. We're sticking around on the batteries too much.
Yeah, for real. Third string gamers is sub-convicted. Hope you're doing good, man. Drop by and say hi. Well, welcome into the podcast.
Appreciate you stopping by.
Uh, so they fuck with the Sovereign, they leave, and then they're getting hunted by the Sovereign, and they see this guy destroy like 12 of the Sovereign ships, and it's just this dude like on the spacecraft just like waving to him. And you're
Yeah,
like,
he's like
okay.
strapped in like he's bull riding or something.
And it's revealed very shortly thereafter that that man is Star Lord's father, Ego, the living planet. And he's like, "Oh, Peter, I've been looking for you for so long." I love the way he says Peter. He doesn't say it like Joe Swanson, but he's just like, "Come be by my side,
he like he
Peter."
like overpronounces the P in a way that like
Peter.
yeah, it's like got a gravelly tone to it.
Yeah, Kurt Russell plays Ego. We
Yeah,
should mention that is Kurt Russell.
yeah.
And
Um, and
go
I
ahead.
know that you don't have context for this, but it's hilarious to me the way that so in Apex Legends there's a character called Fuse. He has a legendary skin, looks exactly like Ego, and I can't unsee it. So every time I just call it Kurt Russell.
So he's like, Peter, come talk.
Peter, I'm your dad.
At first, he's kinda apprehensive, and Gamora's like, "Yeah, go for it." And, we get a shot of Yondu. Sylvester Stallone is here as, like, the king of the Ravagers or whatever, and he's like, "You broke the code. Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, and Mike was talking. He was like, "Do you think Sylvester Stallone even knew what he like his script said when he got it?" He's like the fires or whatever or something.
'Cause he's given this whole thing about, like, the
You'll
horn of
never.
tribunal will never play at your funeral, and the colors of this and this will never fly over your grave, and I'm like, Sylvester Stallone had no fucking idea what he was
Yeah,
saying.
like
Just had a
Sylvester
sheet of
Stallone.
paper.
Sylvester Stallone was way more comfortable with the script for King Shark.
Yeah. Monster Dum Dum. Dumb down for him.
Yeah. Jesus
So
Christ.
yeah. So, he's talking with the Ravagers, Yondu is like, "Get the fuck outta here."
Yeah,
And we
like
see
you
all
broke the
these
code. We don't deal in kids. We get context for that.
yeah. Basically, we hear about it a little bit in the first film, they kinda tease it. Yondu kidnapped Peter from Earth, and we learn in the second one he was supposed to take him to Ego. Yondu didn't, and, he told Peter for years it was because he was good at, like, fitting into, like, crawl
He was
spaces.
small. He could fit into small spaces.
Yeah, but in reality, it was because Yondu, as we find out, started to really like the boy and kinda became a father to him.
Yeah.
So, we get back to, the planet's surface, which is all Ego.
Oh,
We get a really cool shot later.
sorry about
What's
that.
up? Oh, you're
I
good.
had an alarm go off.
So, we get introduced to Mantis. She comes in, she's talking to Drax, and her thing is she's got, like, these antenna, and when she touches someone, she can,
She can feel
re
what they feel, and then she can
yeah,
also influence their behaviors.
yeah, like, how they feel or things like that. Like, her purpose for being on the planet is to help Ego sleep.
Yeah.
And, she starts talking to Mantis, and, oh my god, Mantis starts talking to Drax and Gamora, and, they're kinda starting to suspect something's up. We get this scene where, Mantis is like, "Peter, you're in love with her," and he's like, "What?" And then we get a really cool scene of, Gamora and Peter dancing, and she's like, "Go be with Ego, you know, like, get to know your dad." And, God, I wanna talk about the Brandy scene in case I forget about it.
You
So
can do it now if you want.
that's what I'm gonna do that. So the movie opens with a shot of Missouri in 1980, before the MCU credits, and we see everything.
Yeah.
And it's Meredith, it's his mother, and she's in the car with Ego, and they're listening to a song called "Brandy, You're a Fine Girl," and listen to it, and they're singing, and yeah, this happy moment. And later, I love this scene with Kurt Russell and Peter. It's like, "Women say, Brandy, you're a fine, such a fine. What a good wife you would be." Like, he's, like, reading the lyrics to him, he's, like, discussing the meaning of the song. I have a really big soft spot for scenes like that in movies where the
Yeah.
character kind
I
of starts.
especially love the way that he approaches Peter and he's like, you know, you and I are the sailor from that song. And he's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, yeah. So he's kind of trying to convince him that like to cut ties with like his, you know, mortal self and lean more into the what do you
The
call it?
Celestial.
Celestial. That's it. I was thinking Sentinel for some reason, but the celestial part of himself that's going to be immortal and can live on the planet forever. And by telling him that, you know, he's basically telling him to, you know, abandon Gamora and his friends and be by his side to complete the expansion, which the expansion is basically he's planted parts of himself on every planet throughout the galaxy, and the expansion is basically him taking over all of those planets and those planets becoming him.
I was talking to Keegan when we watched this, and the expansion, I didn't like that at all. I wish they would have just made it about Peter and him and had the stuff on his planet. Like, why endanger Earth? Like, why cut to a fucking Dairy Queen that's getting destroyed? Like, it's weird.
So that we could have James Gunn's parents be a cameo.
It could have been a cameo, and I don't know, and they could have been Ravengers or something.
Yeah,
S- So, they're talking, and Mantis reveals to Gamora and Drax like he's a bad guy,
yeah.
and they go, and Peter's talking to him, and his eyes are all like blue and starry, and
It's like I
Ego's kind of
see it.
yeah, he's like getting in touch with his celestial self, and then Ego's like, "It broke my heart to put that tumor in your mom's head." And he's like, "Hey, you what?" Like, what did you
You
say?
what?
Yeah, you what?
Yeah.
And he turns on him, and they start fighting. Meanwhile, the Ravagers are coming there. What gets them to come there? Is it just Rocket? Oh, Rocket and Yondu
Yeah.
escaped from the Sovereign, right?
Yeah. That's actually. There's a complete side
Totally
story going
forgot about
on
that.
that we just completely overlooked, but they're like, so Rocket stays away with the ship to repair it after they crash landed. And that's actually leads into the second part I was talking about with him being more influenced by Quill's music, because he's sitting there listening to Southern Nights by Glenn Campbell, I believe is his
Yep.
name.
Long
And he's just sitting there humming along. And he took the time to set up all these traps and everything in the forest, and the Ravagers come after him. And he just starts fucking with them basically before he gets captured. Um, but yeah, that's a whole side plot of them like getting away from the Ravagers after they mutiny against Yondu. Um, Kraglin actually has one of the saddest parts of this for me, because like he watches they everybody that doesn't, you know, come up with the mutiny and they're like, I still support Yondu, they actually um airlock them out of the ship into the void of space to freeze to death and die. And he so Kraglin is like not saying anything. He's like, I'm aligned with these guys. He's not actually. And he comes up to Yondu and Rocket when they're in their holding cell, and he's like, I didn't mean to cause a mutiny. uh they killed my friends. Such a sad moment, because, you know, like, because Kraglin throughout this entire thing has been the one that's like, anytime that something's been going on, he stood up for Yondu. He's like, you gotta understand, he has a soft spot for Quill. He's like a son to him or whatever. And they're like, it doesn't matter, he's the leader of the Ravagers, he can't be soft. um it's a heartbreaking scene, to be honest.
It really is. Sean Gunn's acting in this
Yeah,
and in third one are really good.
because you can tell he's like choked up about the whole thing happening. um But yeah, they make their great escape, and they start making their way towards Ego's planet. And this is another part that balances very strangely, because it's like they're like, okay, well, we need them to travel a while, so let's just have them do like 600 jumps through these portals, which are gonna like fuck with their faces and be funny moment, whatever. And another thing that's balancing here is Nebula is chasing after Gamora because she wants to win again for some reason, and like that plot point didn't need to be there at all.
No, it really didn't. It's weird, and I get that they wanted to have Nebula in it. Uh, it was just a weird inclusion to me.
Yeah, I think it pays off in the end, because we get her, like, she has a bit more of a redemption, and she's becomes part of the Guardians at that point. Or not, I don't think she becomes a Guardian yet, but she helps them fight Ego.
Yeah. Does
Um,
I can't remember. Does Kraglin go with them to Ego?
he doesn't. He stays on the ship to like be there for the pickup.
Gotcha. Okay, I couldn't remember if he did or not.
Yeah. So yeah, like we were saying, like, because the fact that we were talking about the main plot line with Star-Lord and his dad and everything else just got sidelined. We completely forgot to talk about it, and that's a big issue with this movie, is that everything else feels sidelined by the main plot point. And it's not that that's a bad thing, because the main plot is great, but it just shows that the side plots are weaker.
No, I completely agree with you. And I did forget for a moment there. I liked some of the moments that they have, like Yondu doing his whistle against the Ravagers.
Yeah.
The Sovereign end up in this too, don't they? Like they just show up
Yeah,
outside of
the
Eagle's planet.
what is it? There's something sends them there. I can't remember what it is though.
I can't either.
Uh, I don't remember. They're there. They show up. Um, we get so they're going into the heart of the planet to destroy Ego's brain. And it's like, okay, we're burning a laser, or they have like a mining rig. They're burning a laser hole through the core to Ego's brain. And I do like this part of the movie because it's so funny. But they're just Kraglin's coming over the radio because he sees the Sovereign showing up in their ships, and he's like, Captain, they're on the Sovereign are here, and he can't hear them. And then he finally like speaks up a little bit on the radio. He's like, "What's that, Kraglin?" He's like, "The Sovereign." And then it cuts out, and you just hear "Wham Bam Shang a Lang" start
Yep.
playing, and Yondu just yanks the stick back. He's like, "Oh shit."
I love that scene.
Yeah.
That is great. I was that song was playing in my head, and I was trying to remember what scene it plays in this movie, and you just like you solved it for me. That is great.
Yeah. It's a great moment. It unfortunately doesn't need to be there, but I still like it because we get to hear that song and just have that reaction from Yondu.
It's gold. And Kurt Russell's like having a freak out. He's like, I could have picked like I picked the form that would have been best to suit you, and he like turns into David Hasselhoff, and Peter's like, nah, you're a prick. So they keep fighting. Uh, Groot arms a bomb on the brain, and they're all going to leave. Uh, Ego's dying, and the planet's kind of just disintegrating, and they all escape. But Peter's still on the planet, and Gamora's like, "No, I gotta go save him." And Rocket knows that Yondu only has one spacesuit, and it's
Yeah.
Yondu and Peter down there. And he like electrocutes her. He's like, "I can't lose another friend today." And Yondu is carrying Peter through space, and Peter's face is kind of like starting to freeze. And Yondu puts the spacesuit on him, and he's like,
He may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy.
"Yeah, he
And
may have
then
been your that's the line."
the hardest part of it is he has the spacesuit on him, and he's like, Yondu, you can't do this, you can't do this. And then he says, I was lucky to have you as my boy.
Yeah, yeah, it hurts. Yondu's death is one of the best in the MCU. It's done really well.
Yeah,
It's so upsetting.
I agree.
It's I love the scene. We didn't talk about Mary Poppins, y'all. When he was like
Yeah,
floating to the ground, he was like, "You." I can't. Was it Peter that said you look like Mary Poppins?
yeah. The
He's
they
like,
the mining rig that they're on explodes, and they're falling out, and Peter's using his arrow rig to come back down, and Yondu's holding onto his arrow to descend as well. You
"Yeah,
look like Mary Poppins.
he's
Is he
like, is he?
cool?
Yeah, is he cool? Yeah,
Yeah, he's
he's
cool.
cool. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all."
It's
That's great.
a great
Um,
moment.
and then we get a reversal on what Sylvester Stallone had said. The Ravagers caught wind of what Yondu had did and the sacrifice he made, and they have this whole funeral for him. It's a really nice moment.
The Ravagers blare the horn of whatever it is, and the
Yeah,
colors of whatever it is
the
fly
who's and the what's
over.
it.
Yeah, the who's and the what's it's. They do that. Peter gets a Zune.
Yeah, he gets a Zune. Uh, um, Yondu got it for him.
Yeah.
Got him a Zune from Earth.
Um, oh, I
It's
did
like
want
this
to
is what all
mention.
the kids are listening to right now on Earth.
Yeah, I do want to mention there is a line that comes back in 3 that I want to mention here really quick before we forget about it.
Okay.
But when Peter is like, I don't know how to use my like celestial abilities all that much. Yondu's like, you think I use my head to fly this arrow? Um, and then later on, he's like being crushed whenever Peter's like being used as a battery again, and Yondu says, I don't use my head to fly the arrow, boy. I use my heart.
Yeah, that's a great line. Yeah, Peter gets a Zune. Uh, and then we get 5. I'm pretty sure that's where it ends, like them on the ship.
Yeah, and then there are 5 post-credit scenes.
There's a Ravagers post-credit scene with Sylvester Stallone. He's like, "Let's go steal some shit." I was
Yeah,
like, "Do you think they're gonna make like a Ravagers thing?
I
Maybe
don't
at one
know.
point that was
Yeah.
in the cards."
We get Kraglin, who is now learning to use Yondu's arrow, and he stabs Drax in the chest on accident.
We see Cosmo again,
Yep.
and then
Um,
Stan Lee is the Watcher.
oh yeah, Stanley's is like he's an agent of the Watchers, and he's just like, did I ever tell you about that time I was a FedEx man?
And they like start walking away. He's like, "Where are you guys going? You're
You're
my
my
ride
ride.
home." And then what was the 5th one? Was it Hasselhoff?
He's at the very end. It's not an actual scene with him. Oh, Groot. Groot's like growing up into like a teenage
Yeah.
adolescent. And Star-Lord's like, you gotta clean up these vines, man. All you do is play that mind-numbing game.
I'm Groot.
I'm not boring.
I have to use the bathroom before we get into 3.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I will be very quick. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cause you editing issues. Give me just 1 minute. Don't shake your head at me. It's a natural part of life.
So here we are once again. Mike's on a pee break. You might be curious, what does Mr. Toast do during Mike's pee breaks? Well, if you're curious, go check out the Twitch VODs. Head over to twitch.tv/convictedtoast, and you can skim through the VOD, and you can see the parts where Mike's taking a pee break, and I just start interacting with the viewers. Anyway, here's the part where I mark for the editing.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm gonna speed run before we get into the holiday special, Infinity War and Endgame.
Okay.
Speed run Guardians involvement. Guardians meet Avengers. They fight. Uh, they're not the Avengers and Guardians. The Thanos. Uh, Thanos is like, I'm gonna take Gamora with me. Throw her off a cliff. Gets the Soul Stone. Peter's pissed. Dooms the whole universe by hitting Thanos in the face with the butt of his gun. Peter, Nebula, Drax, Groot, everybody except for Rocket and Nebula, right? Get
Yeah,
dusted.
Rocket and Nebula are the only remaining individuals from Infinity War.
Yeah,
5
and Nebula.
years, the Guardians don't exist.
Yeah, Nebula meets Gamora, and they kind of reconnect because Nebula is being tortured by Thanos
Yep.
because she tried to cut his throat, and so Endgame, they all come back, they do battle. There's a new Gamora now.
From
She doesn't like,
2014?
yeah. So this would have been the one that met.
No, 2012,
Oh,
sorry.
Guardians
Is-
takes place in 2012.
No, the Gamora is from 2012, isn't she? I don't remember.
I
It's
don't remember
confusing.
either. Well, she has hatred towards Thanos a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? She's from some time in that period. No, it is 2014. I remember because they run into him whenever Peter grabs the stone, and that's how he knows to go after them in the game.
Okay.
Yeah, it's complicated. So
That's right.
yeah. So they come back. Gamora's like, I'm gonna leave now. See ya.
Yep.
And Peter's like, okay. Like
I'm an
his
alcoholic now.
yeah. And Gamora died, and then the new Gamora is nothing like how she was because she had years of character development. Because Infinity War, Endgame, and the holiday special took place years after. Infinity War is like 4 or 5 years after, 4 years after Guardians. Infinity War takes place in 2018. Endgame takes place in 2023.
Yes.
Yeah, 5 years later. Yeah. So yeah, they go off with Thor, and then I guess I have to say Thor: Love and Thunder opens with the Guardians like, "Fuck off, Thor, you're a nobody," and then they
Yeah.
leave him. Uh, so the holiday special opens up. It's really cool. Peter's kind of brokenhearted. They made like a thing on Nowhere, like they kind of
They had like their
the
own like
Guardians bought
HQ
it.
office kind of thing.
Yeah, they bought it off of the Collector, which confirms that he is alive after the
Yep.
events of Infinity War, which is something that I was wondering. Um, and
Then
they
he got
bought
on a
Nowhere.
plane and he flew to Las Vegas.
Yeah, for real. He went back for more.
Yeah.
So, we're on Nowhere now, and it's about to be Christmas time, and Mantis, Drax kind of want to do something special for him because he hasn't had a good Christmas. And Kraglin tells a story about how Yondu ruined Christmas for him, which we get to talk about that a little bit at the end.
Yeah. And
And
it starts out with an animation of like Peter trying to celebrate Christmas with Kraglin and Yondu. And the animation style is actually really cool. I like it.
it's very unique. And Yondu's all pissy, like smashes their tree. So, Peter runs into this guy on the street, like a street performer, and he's like, "Can I sing you my Christmas song?" And Peter's like, "Oh, got a lot of time." The guy starts singing it, and he's like, he like the story of Christmas was like pass from resident to resident of nowhere, like a game of telephone.
Yeah, so it started
So
with Peter, who went to Kraglin, who went to Cosmo, who went to uh, Rocket, or was it
Yeah, and then
Drax?
Rocket went to, Mantis and Drax, and
Yeah,
then it just went everywhere.
it snowballed.
So mhm. So they have no idea, and they're like the lyrics are really funny. It's like, "Mrs. Claus will work the pole," or something like that, and
Yeah.
Peter's like, "No!"
What?
Y it's a great song. It's
It's very
like, "I don't
fun.
know what Christmas is, but Christmas time is here," and it's got the Guardians logo. This is
Yeah.
a really fun special.
Who, I actually don't know who's performing that. Do you know?
Uh, Let me look it up.
Let's
I'm
let's
kinda
find out
curious
really quick,
myself.
because
Jamie,
I'm
pull that up.
curious, because I meant to do it like after we watch. I was like, that guy. I don't know who that is, but I feel like it's somebody that like unexpected.
The old 97s.
Old 97s. I don't think I've heard of them.
Apparently they're a group that formed in 1993, and they're
Okay.
country music.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's a rock song.
Yeah.
Elton Juan, somebody says. Oh, it's Jordan. Um, so yeah, the song's great, and Mantis and Drax are like, go to Earth and get Peter's hero, Kevin Bacon, who he always talks about, and bring him here to surprise Peter. Like, that's a great idea. So they go to Earth. We get a lot of really funny, like, interactions, like Drax beating up this fucking robot dude in a robot costume on the Hollywood Strip, and they're looking for Kevin Bacon, and they get this map to the stars, and they find his house. He's just in there chilling. He's watching the dumbest looking like fucking B movie ever about Christmas, like Santa's with these aliens, and Kevin Bacon's just like,
We
like
almost
enjoying.
we almost forgot to mention, to get the map to Kevin Bacon's house. It's like a street vendor. She's like, "That's $5," and then Mantis just touches her and he's like, "You'll give it to me for free. You'll give me all your money too."
Yeah, you'll give me all your money. So, they go and they're like, "Kevin Bacon," he's like, "Oh, it's fans, go away." And they, like, break into his house, he's trying to call 911, and he's, like, running down the street,
It's so
and
much fun because it's just random. Like there's a part where to get over the gate, Mantis is like, "Do you think you could throw me over the gate?" And before she can finish her sentence, Drax just grabs her by the back and throws her over.
yeah, it's awesome. And, there's, like, this, fucking cop car going after him, and Drax just, like, kinda kicks it off the road and just, like, flips, and she's like, "Drax, that could have killed them." And she, like, leans down and, I forgot to mention this, Drax grabs, like, a little elf man,
Yeah,
like, a blow up,
little
and
funny
Mantis
elf
has
man.
yeah. And Mantis has this candy cane, and she's, like, talking to the cops. The cops are scared to death. There's this girl with antennas, like, 2 feet away from them, and she's like, "Does this look like a person to you?" And shows them the candy cane. They're like, "No, sure
Nope.
doesn't." And she's like, "I knew it wasn't a person," and, like, walks away, and they
It's
eventually get
it's so much fun. It's only like 45 minutes or so. If you
it's
haven't
really
watched
cool.
already, once we finish the podcast, go watch it. It's a perfect time to watch the holiday special.
I agree. It's so much fun. So, they get Kevin Bacon, they put him on the ship, and Mantis is like, "Don't be afraid," and she's like, "Be a hero," and they realize he's an actor, and there's this great, like, back and forth, and he's like, "Actors are repulsive." She's like, "Yes, actors are liars," and, he's just like, "Okay." They take him to nowhere. Peter's kinda sitting there depressed, and they lead him out, and they have all these, like, Christmas lights and Christmas trees, and Groot's wheeling this present over. And, I love some of the cinematography when Peter's looking around nowhere when, like, the fake snow is flying
Yeah,
and there's all the lights. It's a great shot, and he's like you could see it in his eyes, he's, like, kinda being transported back to his time on Earth,
yeah,
how far ago that was now. He's, like, walking towards him, and he sees that the present Groot has is, like, wiggling around. He's like, "Hmm." His expression, like, immediately
yeah.
changes,
He's like,
immediately.
he's got this big grin. He's like, "Oh my god, what is this?" And then it wiggles, and he goes,
Yeah, he's like, he goes up and he unwraps it, it's Kevin Bacon, he's like, "Oh my god," he's like, "Peter, I'm so glad to see you." And he's like you put him in a trance. Get him out of it. And he's like, "I'm so sorry about this." And he's like, "Look, don't run away, we'll take you home." And he, like, immediately starts running away.
"Yep."
And Nebula's like, "I'll neutralize him." He's like, "No, don't kill Kevin Bacon." So, Kraglin's like we cut to Kraglin with him, and Kraglin's taking him home, and he's like, "I'm sorry about all that. They, you mean an awful lot to Peter," and he's telling him about, like, how Peter saved the galaxy. He should have said Peter was one of the guys that helped defeat Thanos,
Yeah,
because he would have known that.
that's
Um,
true.
and, he's just like, "He's a good guy. He saved the galaxy more than once." And Kevin Bacon's like and his phone starts ringing, and Keegan's like, "Oh, how does he have reception?" And then it's immediately like, I'm like, "Just wait." Kraglin's like, "Yeah, we got a couple of satellites there. They'll get you anything within like 3 million light years." And he answers it, and he's like, "Hey, honey, I got some friends. Really could use some holiday cheer." And he goes and he's singing the song that played at the beginning, and they're passing out these gifts, and Cosmo gets Kraglin like this little thing, and uh, Mantis gets Drax, the funny little elf man.
Yep.
It's such a good scene, and, they're talking to Peter, Mantis is talking to him, and he's like, "Kraglin doesn't know how that story ended," and it's revealed in animation that Michael Rooker got yeah, Michael Yondu got him something for Christmas, he got him his gun, and, like, he participated, and Peter got him a present as well. It's a really sweet moment.
It's a like a little dashboard ornament for the ship.
Yeah. It's so neat, and then we come back, and, Mantis tells Peter that they're brother and sister, and Peter's like, "Oh, I've always wanted a sister," and, it's such a sweet moment. I should mention that we get introduced to Cosmo in this as a character before I
Yeah.
talk about the ending. She's around.
Yeah, she's at first she's like trying to help put together the office and everything using her telekinesis, and then Rocket says something to her, and she's like, she just drops it on the ground. She's like, "I refuse to help as long as you're being like that."
Yeah, I refuse to be a help as long as you demean me.
Yeah. And then we also need to mention that she is voiced by what's her name?
Mia Bakalova.
Yeah. Who, if you guys don't know, she got her big start from Borat 2 as Borat's daughter, and then she was the one of the lead characters in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Yeah, she's having a great career. She's a phenomenal actress.
Yeah.
So we come back and Kevin Bacon's finished song and Kraglin's taking him home and they're all like, "Bye, Kevin Bacon. We love you, Kevin Bacon." And then Drax like, "Bye, Kevin Bacon."
Nebula's just like, wow, not all actors are a piece of shit.
Yeah. And it's really good to have this and have that like really sweet stuff at the end. And it's nice that this leads into three
Yeah,
because three is a very
yeah.
somber film.
It's much more depressing. So
Yeah. I guess we just jump into it.
yeah,
We're here. It opens with animal abuse. Um, there's no
okay.
other way there's no other way to put it, it does. You see little Rocket in the cage, and they're, like, going to grab him, and he's, like, trying to get away, and, "Creep" by Radiohead starts playing.
Yeah, and it's an acoustic version.
Yeah, it's awesome, and Rocket's got the Walkman in, and he's walking around, and he's looking around nowhere, and he seems depressed, and then Peter's drunk, so they pick him up, and they carry him out, and we get the logo. And, James Gunn actually filmed that scene to throw people off to put it in the trailer to make it
Yeah,
look like they were carrying a dead Quill,
yeah. It was
and
actually just it was actually a body double for one because Karen Gillan could not lift uh Chris
yeah,
Pratt, obviously, but on top of that, it's used to be like to fake you out, be like he's dead, and he's actually just drunk.
yeah, he's just laying there drunk. James Gunn, subverts a lot of expectations here.
Yeah.
Um, oh my god, we forgot an end credit scene in in 2, Adam,
Oh,
creation of
Adam
Adam.
Warlock. Yep.
Yep, yep, Adam Warlock, who James Gunn originally thought was going to be in Infinity War and then wasn't. Or
Yeah.
Endgame, sorry, in Endgame and then wasn't.
Yeah. And
So
then
he had to
he was
squeeze him in.
like, "Well, shit, I don't want this to be useless," so he threw him in, which he
Yeah.
actually I actually quite like him. He's good.
Yeah, he's funny. Will Poulter does a great job.
Yeah.
So they carry him out on the street, and Rocket's kind of like we get these flashbacks over the course of the film about Rocket's backstory, and he was with these other animals. There was what was the otter's name? Lila. He was with Lila and Teefs
And
with
Floor.
and Floor because the bunny was laying on the floor.
Yeah, they all kind of came up with names like that. Well, Teeth was a walrus, so he named himself after his big teeth.
And through these flashbacks, we get introduced to, in my opinion, like top 5 MCU villain,
Yeah, he's very good. It's what's his name? The
the High
High
Evolutionary.
Evolutionary. That's right.
And he's good, not because he's got all this shit, like all this baggage. He's good because he is just fucking insane
Yeah.
evil. Like he
Um.
wants to create a planet that is perfect.
Yeah, and this having watched Guardians 3 and seeing High Evolutionary, I think we should cover Suicide Squad and Peacemaker at some point on the
We
podcast.
def Yeah, we definitely can. 100%. I love Suicide Squad, and I haven't finished Peacemaker yet.
I've seen it twice. It's great.
So, he is this fucking insanely just evil person. Meanwhile, the Sovereign are back, kind of. They're working for the High Evolutionary, and they want Rocket back because Rocket was the only thing that he created that could do more than he could. Rocket solved like this equation that he
Yeah.
couldn't even
He was
brain.
like, if you change this filter out, the monster, the whatever you're creating will stop being so hostile. And he's like, okay, we'll try that. And he tries it and it works. And he's like, how did you know that? How did you know?
It was the only form of like actual intelligence that, because a lot of the AI that we have just pulls from the internet and pulls from things and creates something.
Yeah.
That's not true
Creation.
art. Yeah, but Rocket is the first of his creatures to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So Adam Warlock gets sent to nowhere to get Rocket. One of the best fucking intros for any character ever. Crazy on You by Heart is blaring. He's flying. We get a face up shot of him as he's flying into nowhere. And he immediately just tears shit up. Like he injures Rocket to the point where he's on the verge of death. He wipes the floor with the Guardians, and then they finally like get the best of him. He retreats, and they're like, "Shit, dude, Rocket!" And they try to put the med pack on him, and they realize that there's like an electromagnetic lock on his
Yeah.
heart.
There's something going on with like the cybernetics that they put in him when he was being experimented on that prevents like other technology. Like they can't even like make an incision into him without it doing something.
Yeah, and that's kind of what sets the whole movie into motion. The Guardians need to go, and they need to find this pass key to get in and save Rocket. So Kraglin and Cosmo, they're kind of just chilling, and there's this whole like cute little side story with them where Kraglin calls Cosmo a bad dog, and she's like falling right. She's like, "I'm not a bad dog." And then they're
Yeah.
like playing poker with Howard the Duck, and he's like, "And did he call me a bad dog?" And everyone
Yeah.
around the table was like,
Yeah.
"Oh!"
She's like the CCP sent me into space knowing that I would burn up on re-entry to the planet, and even they didn't have the audacity to call me bad dog.
That's great. I love Cosmo. For context, if you've never seen her, she's like a little golden retriever. So cute. So they go, and their first stop is like this. What even is it? I can't. It's where Nathan Fillion is.
Yeah, it's like this
Like a
weird
data.
fleshy place. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe the material, but all the guards in there have like this weird material on them.
If you've ever
And
worked with insulation foam, it kind of looks like insulation foam as their
okay,
armor.
I could see that. So they break in there and they get Gamora to go with them. They hire her out from the Ravengers, and Sylvester Stallone's like, "All right, you can have Gamora for this mission." And Gamora's going with them, and Peter's trying to like reconnect with her, and it's not working at all. She's like not interested in him. She has no idea who he is. They go down into the place, and they're trying to find the information on Rocket, and
Oh,
think
we can't forget about Nathan Fillion's
that's what
line.
I was getting into.
Yeah,
When they first break in, and you could talk about it when Nathan Fillion comes in.
yeah. So they like get rid of they get their spacesuits off and they like go throw them into a closet and they're like, okay. And like the guards burst in, they're like, what's going on in here? And they're like, there's literally a hole in the side of the thing. You guys are coming in here waving your weapons around. We just need help. Um, and then they're like interrogating everybody, and it's like, all right, who are you, you, and you? And then it's like, oh, don't worry about like that's he like explains everything, and then he gets to Drax, who says something out of turn. He's like, don't worry, he's the boss's son. And then he's like, oh, don't worry, I got one of those too, and he points to a guy behind him.
Yeah, and he's, like, talking about the other guy, he's like, "This one, I like him. He's good. Him? Eh." Nathan Fillion is so good in this movie.
Yeah.
So they good.
No, you're good. I just coughed.
So they start going out, throughout this place, and they're, looking for whatever information they can find about Rocket. I can't remember what they call him, CP-913 or something like that.
Um, maybe 139 something like that. It's a number.
I'll remember it eventually. I know Finn's Stormtrooper number in The Force Awakens is FN2187.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. Anyway, they're they're going throughout it, and there's this really funny scene with Drax and Manus where she makes this like guard fall in love with him, and he's like, "Hi," and Drax just goes, "Hi." It's so his delivery is so good. He's just, "How are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm good. I can let you in here."
uh,
Uh,
Sam says it's 89P13.
89P13. Okay. 2319. We got a 2319.
That's from
And
Monsters Inc.
I know. I know. So they're going throughout it, and Star-Lord gets into conflict with this like one secretary lady. He's trying to seduce her, and Gamora decides to pull a gun on her. He's like, "Oh, come on, my seducing was working," and she's like, "No, I actually thought you were a total douchebag." He's like, "Oh, come on." So he's like explaining their whole like lore, I guess, in case you missed Infinity War and Endgame, like what happened, and the Gamora's like, "It sounds like you're more in love with her," and like points to Nebula, and Nebula's like, "What? What do you? What do you even?" And they're standing there, and Peter's like staring at her, and she goes, "Knock it off." He's
He's
like,
like,
"I'm."
I never noticed how dark your eyes were.
Yeah, she goes, "They were replaced by my father as a form of torture." Well, he picked a pretty set. um, so they're all fighting. We get a fake out Drax death here,
Yeah.
where he gets like shot up by a bunch of the guards, and like we think he's dead, and the anti-grav is turned on, and they
Yeah.
escape.
We also do get the same girl that he was trying to seduce. She's like with him. He's like, just let me talk to them. I can get him to stop. I can explain the whole situation. She's like, okay. He sits down. He's like, I'm not an idiot. Also, she was totally into me.
Yeah, and he hacks the gravity thing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So they get back on the ship, and we get another flashback of Rocket, and it's revealed that all of his friends were killed,
Yep.
like all of them, and he was trying to escape.
Yeah,
And
they were planning. It was he helped him master the evolution that he wanted. Then he was like, you were never gonna see the new world. So all the test subjects from that field, exterminate them, get rid of them. So Rocket goes back to his cell. He starts assembling something, and they're like, Rocket, what are you doing? He's like, I'm making a key. He makes the key out of literally like nothing. He just finds random parts around his cage, opens the door, and goes to get everybody else out. And as he opens the door for the other one, Lila and him hug, and then she gets shot in the back by the High Evolutionary.
yep, yep. And before this, we get a flashback, and they're all laying there, and Rocket gets his name to the rocket ship that he sees, and he says, "One day, we're gonna all fly away together into the forever beautiful sky." And that line, dude, Bradley Cooper just absolutely dissolves into this, and it's completely like mocap and whatever, and it's crazy. His acting for Rocket,
Yeah.
so good in this
I
movie.
don't know if you've ever seen it in interviews, but he says every time he sees Rocket, I was like, that's me. Like,
Yeah, that's funny.
yeah. Um, but yeah, what a terrible moment. But then, right after she gets hit, um, Rocket tackles the high evolutionary and starts clawing at his face, and he's laying there completely like can't move or anything. Guards start running in. Rocket picks up the gun, starts shooting back at him as they're firing at him. And in that moment, there he takes him down. He turns around and he sees that Floor and Teefs was hit as well, and they're both dead.
Yeah, it's awful. And I can't remember, do we no, it's after this. Okay, so they are going after the high evolutionary now for the code. They land on this like the planet that he made, and we see an octopus selling meth on the street.
Yeah. Also, we get this great scene when they first touch down. Drax picks up a ball and goes to like toss it back to this little girl and just throws it straight into her face.
Yeah. And they all like start throwing rocks at him. And eventually they get into like this family's house and Peter's like trying to explain to them even though they speak a different language. Like, hey, my friend's in danger. And then she's like, here's my car keys. And her husband's just like, oh. Like he can't speak like their language. He's just
Yeah.
so visually pissed. He's like a bunny, man.
Yeah, he's like, oh. Just covers his face. He's like, I can't believe this is happening. But this leads into a historic moment in the MCU.
Yes, it does. They go to get in their car. Nebula is having trouble with the door handle. Peter's like, push the button. He's like, I am pushing it. He's like, you're pushing the keyhole. There's a button under the handle. Press that in. It's like, okay, now what? And he goes, open the fucking door. It's so good. And I'm so glad James Gunn got it because this is not a throwaway F bomb. That is like one of the funniest moments of the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's so out of left
Yeah,
field.
there's even there's a whole thing where Kevin Feige was like, the Russo brothers wanted to do this, and they decided they didn't want that to be their legacy. And then he's like, are you sure this is what you want? And he's like, do you know who the fuck I am?
Yeah. So I can't remember. I know Adam Warlock returns. He like vaporizes this dude that they were trying to get information out of, and he takes the dog thing with him. And he's like, "I don't like the way that thing is looking at me." And he's like, "It looks sad." He's so good, and
Yeah.
he flies down, and I can't remember. Rocket's not revived at this point, right?
Not yet, because they're still getting the code from the high evolutionary ship,
Right.
which we don't
So
know is a ship. We think it's just a building to start with.
yeah, it looks like a big building, and so Adam Warlock flies down and he's fighting with Gamora, and meanwhile Drax and Nebula are going away from the ship when they were supposed to be guarding it. Or
Yeah.
Drax and Manta, sorry.
Yeah.
Where's Nebula at? I can't remember.
She is outside the building while Peter and
Oh, that's
Groot are
right.
inside.
She's with the War Pig.
Yeah, that's right. The war pig, after they start the whole thing, the war pig flies off to the Guardian ship, and I'm pretty sure at this point, like, it's Adam Warlock and Gamora and the like war pig are like all fighting each other.
Yeah.
Um, it's I like that he starts adopting like the weird dog thing.
Yeah, the little pet that he like got off the dead body.
Yeah. Um. But Peter and Groot are in the building. They're making their play. Um Groot is keeping all the guns like inside, like he opened up his torso, put all the guns inside, and the moment that they're ready to attack, he pulls out four, and then Peter's drop out of his back, and Peter catches them. Um, and we get this. They're like, "Okay, how do you plan to get out of here?" And we get this it's actually kind of a cool scene, where Peter just grabs onto Groot. Groot grows like wood wings, and they just glide out of there.
Well, he's got a guy with him too that he fucking kills.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
guy with the code.
they drop him out of the window, and they the guy that has the code that's in his brain, like it's a little computer on board his head, and he's like, "You'll kill us both," and then Peter's like, "No, I won't," and he just flips over, so that the guy's gonna impact the ground first.
Yeah, it is a gnarly death. Like he fucking hits the ground, just slides from through dirt and water.
Yeah,
Absolutely dead.
but we
Uh,
got the codes, and they're like, "All right, back to the ship to save Groot." or Rocket.
So, trying to remember what happens next. They have the code. They revive Rocket. The planet starts like exploding, and they decide to go above. Well, the planet does explode, and they decide to go to the or does it
Yeah,
explode?
it's Nebula, Drax, and Mantis are like Peter's still on that ship as it's taking off into orbit, and they're like they all get on board and they get inside and you see like dozens of children from like these species that the high evolutionaries created. Um and they're like, we have to help these people pretty much. And Rocket's after Rocket survived, he's like, where's Nebula? And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, that's her line. And it shows like she's on the radio and they're like, Nebula, what's going on? She's like, we're on the ship. Where you guys at? We're like, what ship?
Uh,
We left.
and yep. And Peter goes to revive Rocket, and while he's doing it, his heart stops,
Oh yeah, a great scene.
and we get this part with Rocket, and he's in like this afterlife. It's all white, and Lila's there, and she was like, "Come on, we're gonna fly away together into the forever, beautiful." And he's walking with her, and then she kind of lets go of his hand, and she's like, "But not yet." He's like, "What? I want to go with you." She's like, "You have a family here to take care of." And he comes back. I cried like a baby in that
It's
theater.
so good.
It is only James Gunn can make you feel that way about
An
a
amputee
CGI
otter.
raccoon. Yeah, and a CGI raccoon.
Yeah,
So they go up to the ship to get him back, and Mantis or no Mantis, good lord. Oh yeah, Mantis is there. Mantis, Drax, and Nebula are riding those like weird squid things from the second movie,
yeah.
and they reveal to them that there's kids on board, and they're like, "All right, we need to get them off." And there's a really scene I like a little bit later that makes a lot of sense for Rocket's character because there's a bunch of animals on the ship too that they're experimenting on, and Rocket like looks at him, he's like, "Peter or Pete, we got to get everybody."
Yeah.
And
And he's like, we already
I,
go to the kids. And he's like, no, everybody. And he like shows over all the animals. We also almost forgot to mention in this scene too, the high evolutionary shows up again. He's like, 89P13, there you are. And that they get into a fight. All of the Guardians show up, they help fight him, and we get the reveal where he's had like a replica of his face on top of his old face, and you peel it off and you see what Rocket did to his face, and it's just, oh, it's awful.
yeah, it's very grisly. Like you see his exposed skull, and
There's muscle
um,
tissue and everything.
we also forgot to mention the war pig attacking Kraglin and Cosmo, and them working together,
Oh
and
yes, this
Kraglin
is
channeling
uh
Yondu.
yeah. He so Kraglin is he's looking at everybody, and Kraglin to this point hasn't really been able to master the arrow yet, and he sees a vision of Yondu, and he hears, "I don't use my head to fly the arrow. I use my heart." And he hears it again, and starts it up, and just takes out like a. He takes out a few people, doesn't he? There's a. It's more than just the war pig there.
There's a bunch of the high
The
evolution.
security, yeah, like the high evolutionary security guys. Yeah, that's right. Just takes out a huge group.
Yeah, it's such a good scene. And the whenever he sees Yondu sitting there and talking to him, Rooker reprises the role. It's really nice that we get to see some character growth for Kraglin, and then he finally calls Cosmo a good dog.
Yeah,
She's very happy about this. She's very pleased.
yeah. When they actually show the like the vision of Yondu standing there, I teared up.
Yeah, it was really so. Then they're leaving, and this is the third movie in a row that the ship is exploding or whatever's exploding. Pete grabs the Walkman or the Zune or whatever he has in this movie and jumps into space and starts freezing again. And this time, Adam Warlock's been kind of around. I think it kind of tells to how James Gunn threw him in here because of how little we talked about him, even though he liked him. he really kinda feels forced into a lot of this. He's a great character, but, like,
Yeah.
he was just kinda tossed in head
Yeah, I
first.
agree. And okay, so one thing I do like about this is like because he shows up when Pete's like in space, no mask or anything, and he's dying. We get this recreation of God creating Adam as he reaches out and you just see a finger reaching out for Peter's finger.
Yep, it's the recreation of the creation of Adam.
Yeah. It's a great moment. We almost forgot to mention there is a part where Gamora takes Adam Warlock's new pet. He's like, "I'll kill this thing." He's like, "Don't be rash."
Don't be rash. It's great, and, Groot is revealed too. And Adam Warlock, like, goes to fight him, and he's, like, fucking tuckered out because 'cause he's been fighting all day, and Groot saves him, and, so Peter jumps into space, he's freezing. We get the creation of Adam after Adam Warlock gets up after being knocked out. They all go back to nowhere, and they all decide, to go their separate ways. Peter wants to go back to Earth. Rocket and Groot are gonna stay on the Guardians with Rocket as the leader. Drax is going to, like, kinda be a father figure to all the kids that they got from High Evolutionary Ship.
We also get a
Uh,
crazy moment. Uh, it comes out of nowhere. I did not expect it. Where Groot speaks not "I am Groot."
I kinda like it,
Yeah,
and the reason why is James Gunn kinda gave a really good explanation for it. All 3 of the movies, we were watching the Guardians, he said, and then at the end of that one, you are one, so you can.
you can understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I like the line too, "I love you guys." And he changed it once when he said, "We are Groot," when he
yeah,
sacrificed. Uh, Nebula decides that she's gonna become, like, the, president or whatever. She's gonna oversee a lot of Nowhere's development.
yeah.
Kraglin and Cosmo also join the Guardians, the new Guardians. I think I got Mantis wants to go and explore the galaxy because her whole life she's been going where other people tell her to go, and just this once she wanted
Yeah.
to go some
What
that
is
she wants.
Drax doing? What was his?
He's becoming a dad to all of the
That's
kids that
right.
we got from the High Evolution
Yeah,
ship, and then we get a dance, ending, the Dog Days Are Over is playing. Peter kinda realizes that Gamora doesn't want him, uh, he accepts it, they're all dancing together. It's such a good moment,
yeah.
and, I think it ends there, doesn't it?
We get to see Peter go back to Earth and
Oh, yeah,
to meet
he
his
meets his
grandpa
grandpa, yeah.
again. And then we get into the post credit scenes after that.
Yeah, so there's one post-credit scene, it's one of my favorite MCU post-credit scenes because there's a conversation I guarantee you, like, we've all had. Like your grandma or grandpa or somebody's telling you about, like, a neighbor, he's like and Peter's like, "I don't wanna mow his lawn," like, he's a 40-year-old man, like, capable, and he wants me to mow his mom's lawn, like, and his grandpa's like, "Don't even get."
You
Peter
cut out for that part.
Oh, he said, "You don't wanna get me started," and Peter's like, "Now I kinda wanna know." And he's, like, eating cereal, and it says Star-Lord will return.
Yeah, the legendary Star Lord will return as he's just sitting there with his Cheerios.
I love that scene. And in the other one, we get a reprise of "Come and Get Your Love" by Redbone. We see the new team of the Guardians, which is that weird dog-looking thing, Rocket, Groot, Adam Warlock, one of the girls.
Who it looks like she has something similar to Captain Marvel's powers.
I think she does. I think she's part Korean, that might be why.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know the Kree thing because I know Kree are powerful.
Yeah.
I I I watched Captain Marvel. I know some stuff about the Kree.
Yeah. We also get the reveal that Groot has grown like significantly larger than he ever was in the first movie.
Yeah, that makes me wonder, do you think he, like, fucking got, at some point before that, and he had to regrow, and that's why he was, like, at that size?
I don't know, because
Or do
the
you think
big
it's,
thing
like, the
about it
regrowth?
is all of the versions that we see of Groot throughout this, none of them are like in the first time that we see him in the first movie, that is what he looks like in the comics. Everything after that, I'm pretty sure has been like a new adaptation
Makes
on
sense.
his look.
Kinda dig it.
Yeah.
As the, credits are playing. We see a bunch of pictures, like photos from all three of the movies in the holiday special. The Guardians together. James Gunn kind of saying, "This is it, the end." Really good. I'm glad James Gunn kind of subverted a lot of expectations. People were taking bets and trying to figure out who would die first, and no one, no one dies.
Yeah. I
Uh,
think it works out because I don't know, the way that they set it up, it feels like someone is supposed to die in this movie. And I remember for a long time the scene of Peter jumping into space and like he starts swelling up and freezing. People were like, "Oh my god!" Like people were saying that that was like a death scene. For people that didn't actually see the movie, and like people were like, "Oh my god, he dies," and it's like, no, he doesn't.
nope, he gets carried right back inside.
Um, Weird that it happened 3 times, but
Yeah, for real. So, that's Guardians 3, a great trilogy, great holiday special. Now we get to rank them.
yeah, I didn't think it'd be this tough for me. But 1 and 3 are both so good. I don't know. You go ahead and go first. Yeah,
Uh, so I would say from least to most favorite. Uh, Least favorite is Guardians 2.
I would agree. I still like it though a lot.
No, oh yeah, yeah, me too. Then Guardians Christmas special, then Guardians 1, then Guardians.
I would probably agree with that listing. Because Guardians 1 is good, but I think we get the biggest emotional payoff from 3, because everybody's so interconnected now. By the time that the story wraps up, so
Yeah, and I'm glad James Gunn kind of kept it just to like the world that he created instead of trying to like throw Doctor Strange in there to like pop out a portal. Oh, did I leave my panties in this ship? I'm really glad he go
yeah,
down that road,
yeah.
try and wrap in a bunch of characters.
I don't think they set up anything for this one at all. Like
No,
nothing. I mean, maybe we get another, not a Guardians movie, but like we get the new Guardians and something that they're connected to. Um,
I
so
don't think that's the last we'll see of Adam. He was
yeah,
way too popular.
yeah. Don't be rash.
Don't be rash. He looks sad.
I just
Such a
forgot
good.
to mention that the remaining sovereign, or the sovereign queen, gets taken out here too. When the planet
Oh
explodes.
yeah, yeah, she does explode. I forgot about that. Never liked her.
Yeah, that's fair. Still fucks me up that she's the girl from Tenet.
Oh yeah, you were telling me that. The
Yeah,
fake outs in 3 fuck me up. I was so anxious the whole time. So yeah, no, I can relate.
yeah, that's fair. But yeah, Guardians 3. If you haven't seen it yet, and you somehow managed to avoid spoilers, if from us literally telling you the entire plot of the movie, go watch it.
I'd watch it regardless, even if you did watch it and
Yeah,
now
because
you're
we
telling.
there's a lot that we didn't cover here. There's a lot of jokes. There's a lot of plot points that we may have forgotten about, like with 2, where we had to go back and talk about 3 other plot points. If you haven't seen any of them, go through and watch them, especially the holiday special, because it's 40 minutes long and it's so much fun.
Yeah, no, it is really good. I'm probably gonna watch it again this weekend with the family
Yeah,
because it's such a good special. Um, I think that's all we have though.
that's pretty much it. So yeah, might be a little bit slower getting these podcast episodes out just because we both work in retail and the holidays are right here. So, but it's been a great time.
Yeah, it has been, and we still have some episodes planned for the rest of the year. We'll get them out, just not as many as you probably used to.
Yeah, it's going to slow down a little bit. We'll try and keep up. We're not going to like abandon it and say, "Oh, we tried," but we're going to get there. Anything that we don't finish here in 2023, we still have plans for podcasts in 2023 that we'll probably just let bleed into 2024.
Yeah, I think we only have like a couple more planned for this year because I deleted a few of them.
Oh, okay.
I think we just have like our are Edge Runners or Champloo, Odd Taxi,
Yeah.
and then Christmas movies and highlights of the year. So we've only got 4 left.
What about Death Stranding? Do we push that one back, or are
We
we okay? We're gonna do that in
we
2024 then.
probably.
All right, sounds good to me. But yeah, that's been the Mixed Media Podcast once again.
So have a great Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday weekend. Even if you're not celebrating the holiday, like I said, have some turkey, have some pie. It doesn't matter, broiled or fried. Anyway, have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. We will see you in the next episode.
You all have a fantastic evening, day, night, whatever it is. You have it. We'll see you guys. Take care.